Like to call this meeting.
Recording in progress.
Like to call the meeting to order, please. This is a meeting of the Bourne Board of Health, special emergency meeting regarding 141 Williams Ave, non-compliance with orders to correct, dated March 15th, 2024, for violations of the State Sanitary Code 150 CMR 410. The Zoom chat will not be monitored. Participants who wish to speak must raise the hand icon until the chair asks them to unmute. And note, this meeting is being televised and recorded by Bourne Community TV for replay. If anyone in the audience is also recording or videotaping, they need to acknowledge such at this time.
This is Michael Roush with the Bourne Enterprise newspaper. I'm audio recording this meeting.
Thank you, Michael. Okay. All items within the meeting agenda are subject to deliberation and votes by the Board of Health. If anyone from the public wishes to access the meeting remotely, they can do so by clicking the Zoom link or by calling the following conference line on their phone and using the Zoom meeting ID and password below. The dial-in is +1 309 205 3325. Zoom meeting ID is 315 403 5336. The password is 02532. Okay, let's take attendance. So Margaret Reale.
Here.
Dusty Meyer.
Here.
Miguel Prieto.
Here.
Okay. Miguel's here. Okay. Bob Collette. Barbara Princiotti is absent this evening. Okay. And I'll just start off by saying that last week on Friday, or I apologize, Thursday, I did visit this property along with Dion and Ken from the Bourne Building Department, and we made some observations and briefly discussed the situation. Caitlin, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to what Dion might have shared with you, or Ken? Or what have you?
Yeah, so Dion debriefed me after the site visit and told me that Ken went out, viewed the structure. Based off of the year that building was built, it did meet building codes for a second egress with the bedroom windows at the back of the house.
Correct.
So in his code, he could not do anything about that type of for condemnation or unfit for human habitation from the building code standpoint anyways.
Right. Okay. So that is true. Ken noted that the windows, when you're in the backyard, looking at the rear of the home, the windows on the right-hand side on the second floor were in compliance with code at the time that the structure was built back in the 1970s to qualify as a second egress because they met a minimum size requirement at that time. So we did note that the back deck is in serious need of some either replacement or I think we were all in agreement. Dion, correct me if I'm incorrect here or inaccurate in any way, needs to be replaced, rebuilt. It's unsafe for anybody to use at this time. Dion, do you have any additional commentary?
No, I agree with what you just said. The deck is pulling away from the house. It cannot be used. I do believe that it really cannot be restored as is. So replacement would be the only option.
Okay, and was there an order for a replacement of the deck back in March or previous to that?
Yes, with the orders to correct that went out on, I believe, March 15th. Yeah. The owner was given 24 hours to at least provide a contract with a contractor that was going to be done and permits to be pulled.
Okay. And so is there anyone else from the public that would like to comment on what might have happened or where we are in things right now? So we determined at that point, I think that,
Bob, I think
yeah.
Julie, the occupant, wanted to speak.
oh, I'm sorry, Julie. Yes.
Are you stating to me that this house is safe for my children and I to be in, where the deck has been condemned? And
No.
as my second way out is 12 stories or, 12 feet down, we're gonna jump out? Where
No,
this house has been in serious disrepair since 2019. She's faced
Mhm.
over $42,000 in fines already.
right.
And she's already been in violation with the town over 5 years. Now she's been in violation since March. We're still living in absolute disrepair. And you're telling me this house is still safe by town standard, correct?
Not by any means, no. That we had the building inspector, the building commissioner make a determination of whether or not if the second egress was legal, and it is according to the old code, and that's all that we're saying. So he could not condemn the home based on his finding that the deck is in disrepair. So at this point, we are concerned. Our primary concern here is the safety and health of the occupants. And so we have some options before us, and we could consider possibility of declaring the property unfit for human habitation. But at that point, that would require you to move from the property so that the necessary repairs could be made, and the landlord would not be able to rent that property until all of the required improvements have been made. And if I'm incorrect on that, Katie, please go ahead and chime in. But that's my understanding of that option.
That's correct.
And
Yes.
I understand that we fully appreciate and understand that the housing market is very tight right now and difficult to find places to live. But based on the fact that these fines have been outstanding for about 5 years now, and only minimal improvements have been made, we don't see any hope in the landlord making any changes to improve your quality of life in that home, Julie.
Correct.
Right. So, this would be our next move, but it would require you to move, vacate that premises, at least until such time that the improvements are made. And again, we do appreciate the difficulty that imposes upon you. And, but I think it's the only way that we'll get anything done there.
So she is facing a very large lawsuit from me, by me, for
Mhm.
all of this. So this is something that, again, you guys do what you need to do. I have to address this with my attorney, clearly. This just increases my lawsuit to be much larger. This is absolutely disgusting at $3,000 a month that we are being absolutely tortured by this woman in
Right.
such a horrific manner,
Mhm.
an absolutely horrific manner.
We understand that and are sympathetic to it, and I believe. And so, but this is the only recourse that we have at hand right now, since the fines have been ignored for all of this time.
May I
And
ask where her fines are leveling at currently,
it's about $42,000 roughly.
today?
Well, that was from last week, so it's a little more. So that's
So-
something that you could find out from the town. I don't know the exact number.
May I ask another question?
Sure.
Where she was discounted the $42,000 in 2019 down to $1,500 because she cried poor and everything else and lied to the town of Bourne. Are you guys going to possibly let her out of this mess again?
No, if we go ahead and move forward with the, what I'm thinking about, and there's no guarantee that we will, because the rest of the board has to agree on it. Then she would be prohibited from renting the property until all of the improvements were made. And then, the legal stuff, as far as collecting fines and that sort of thing, it's not something that we can do as a board, but the town would have to make a decision on whether or not they're going to pursue that.
As I so stated last Wednesday, the prior family, the one child has asthma post living in this home.
Mhm.
Where are we to go with the housing crisis? Where are my children and I to go? This woman took $9,000 just this past October
Mhm.
and has left us in this mess. I informed her December 11th of how bad this house was and was ignored and then thrown into an eviction because of it. So it's not that I haven't looked to leave. I would love to.
Right.
But what are we going to do? This woman obviously is she's a slumlord. I don't have a better word in it, and I'm not trying to throw bad words out there, etc. But you saw the house with your
No,
own eyes. This is
Understood.
not your first go around with this woman. I understand that you're finding her and everything else. That's great. But these are my children.
Right.
These are
I
prior
understand.
children. Where am
I
I
get-
supposed to go? What are
No.
we supposed to do?
I, Jill, please. I understand. We understand how frustrated and upset you are, and we totally get that. And I know that, you shared all of that with us.
Mhm.
We have to leverage our whatever authority we have. The
I understand.
previous orders have been ignored. This is our, possible next move. Um, so, and I understand that it impacts you very much. We do get that, but it's the only way that, it might be the only way for us to correct the situation. And unfortunately, it would involve you having to move from the home, but it would also prohibit her from renting it until everything is resolved.
She should be prohibited for eternity from ever renting again. This is how horrible of a woman she is. And I have reported her to the Attorney General's office of the state of Massachusetts. It is not a bad tenant versus a wonderful landlord. This is a horrific landlord versus very good people.
Understood. So with that, any other board members have anything to add to the situation?
If I could clarify a few things first.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, so that $42,000 fine accrual, that was the previous enforcement action, and the Board of Health at that time did waive those fees. So that's not the correct number. It would be whatever current violations that are still in effect. It would be $100 to $300 per day per fine since they were first noticed. So I can do that math for you, Julie, and get that number to you.
I
But
appreciate that.
it would not be the 42,000 that was stated previously.
I
Would
would
that be-
appreciate that total fine, please. I would need that from my attorney, please.
Of course. And then regarding, the house being let again, so part of if the board decided to do an unfit for human habitation, the home would be secured and placarded with a sign by the Board of Health, which would not be allowed to be removed by anyone but an agent of the Board of Health until a time that the Board of Health determined it to be in complete compliance with the state housing code.
What part of the town will help me find housing if they so deem this uninhabitable?
So again, this is something that the board could potentially vote on. Dion has worked with you a couple times. We could definitely reach out to a couple different places. But within the housing code, if a residence has been condemned and placarded as unfit for human habitation, and the occupant of that dwelling is not the owner shall provide comparable suitable housing for the occupant for the following time periods. So those would be the remaining term of the lease or rental period, such a time as the residence is deemed suitable for habitation by the Board of Health, or such a time as the occupant finds alternative permanent housing and voluntarily terminates their tenancy.
So she's responsible to find and pay for my housing?
If the board votes as this unfit for human habitation, yes.
Thank you. When shall I know what you guys decide?
Well, we're going to discuss it this evening and possibly vote on it. So, does anybody else have anything to add to that? Or have any questions? Dusty, Margaret, Miguel?
I think Dusty and Miguel had comments.
Okay.
Bob, I see this, and correct me if I'm wrong, as
Mhm.
a civil court matter, uh, we only can do what the code calls that the board can do, Board of Health
Right.
can do. And the rest of it's civil court, I believe. So that's my feelings on this case.
That we could find it unfit for, human habitation and force that action, which would not cost the town. If we were to condemn it, and we don't really have a lot of footing to do a condemnation based on Ken's findings, then it doesn't cost the town anything, but it does provide the measure of protection that the family is seeking, even though, it is going to create an inconvenience for them in having to move and so forth. But I understand where you're coming from. Katie, do you have anything to respond to that, or?
Yes, there's certain elements that are definitely within our code, within our scope that we can enforce. And the rest, Julie, the occupant, is taking up with a civil case on her own as well.
Right. Okay.
So my question, based on your inspection and what the other inspector observed when you went to the site, does the dwelling meet the requirements based on the stipulations from the state law to be, basically inhabited by people, or no? I don't think that we need to make a determination about the civil. I agree with Dusty. We just have to make a determination whether this meets the criteria. And we provided the landlord with time since March, and nothing has been done.
Right.
So based on that, what are we going to do?
This is the whole purpose for this meeting, right? Because there are still several health, threatening situations there within the home, and health and safety. So I agree, Miguel. That's right. That's what we have to determine tonight. Okay. Margaret, anything to add?
So these other health concerns, but they're not serious enough to have the house condemned, but they're of concern.
They're
that what you're
concerned. And
saying?
there could be other complications, like like we heard about the other day, mold inside the walls and that sort of thing. And we also know Ken did observe that the windows that had been replaced on the home some time ago were not properly installed. The door at the basement door still allows water into the home. There are several other concerns there that, from a building standpoint, which don't rise to the level of condemnation, but still present health concerns. Yes, Julie.
So again, I'll bring it up again. The roofing inspector or roofing contractor has
Mhm.
never come.
Right.
And the pulling away that was observed by the elderly contractor who was here, who stated that the water coming off of the roof, going in between the gutters that have pulled away, is going into the walls, which is why the house still reeks of mold.
Yeah.
It's in the walls.
Yeah.
Where is this being addressed? I have not seen anybody for this.
Right. And the building commissioner noted that they failed to install the flashing properly and drip edge and those sorts of things. So there are several corrections and changes that need to be made in the structure of the home, which would go a long way to preventing mold and that sort of thing. Yeah.
So if I may, sir,
Yes.
where the mold was just being able to be seen, where it was coming through the ceiling in my bedroom, like rainwater, it was pouring through. It was simply the mold that was seen in simply that area. The mold specialist could not see any further beyond that because of all the garbage that's in the attic.
Right.
And they so stated that it could be much further in depth through the attic. They couldn't see it because of all of her junk that's up there. This is not a minute, let's just paint and fix this one little patch in my bedroom.
Right.
Did you look at the photos and the video of this?
Oh yeah, we have a good sense of all of the problems. That's what we're trying to illustrate here.
Would you like to live in this house yourselves?
No,
Would you
right,
move
but the
your
problem-
grandchildren and your children
No.
into this home?
No, no, and we understand that. So, and Dion, correct me if I'm wrong. Ken said that, you know, even though the mold problem was somewhat uh, mitigated, but it would definitely return again based on the poor job at you know, on the construction with the windows and the doors, and the lack of drip edge and the gutter pulling away from the roof and the lack of any roof work and so forth. So
Correct. So the the mold that was visible, you know, and could be reached was removed by the remediation company.
right,
But he said that the issues with the structure, that moisture could be introduced or reintroduced,
yeah,
which could cause a problem in the
right,
future.
right, okay. Uh, okay, so we have to decide, uh, you know, what the action, if we are going to take any action on this tonight, and if we are, you know, then we need you know, we need someone to suggest something, and then we will vote on it. Um, any other comments for Katie?
I guess I would just say that, you know, if we're, you know, contemplating this being a condition that is making this residence unfit for human habitation, some like guidelines along that would be, are there any other legal remedies that we could take in a speedy time frame that would correct this? Is that something the board thinks could happen? If not, then that's what deems it a condition making it unfit for human habitation.
Does this seem, is this the next logical step that would be taken in absence of the fines being paid and other legal remedies that have been tried with, that we've tried to levy as a town on this landlord?
Yeah, especially since, you know, in Dion's original orders to correct, this was deemed a condition that could endanger the health and safety of the occupants and was given 24 hours to start corrections. And it's been several months since then, and we have not seen a permit yet. So,
Okay. All right. All right. Well, that having been said, I think, are we ready for a motion? Anybody? No, Dusty, did you want to say something? You have to unmute.
What I'm having a problem with, the only thing we can condemn that house is on a porch. Unless you can tell me something else, mold issue has to be rectified, but all these things have been written up. So the only thing we got to go on, or I have to go on, is that porch and need to be redone.
Okay.
Am I correct?
I think there was a list of things from the March 15th. Is that correct, Katie? Dion?
yes. And
Okay. Could we review
the
those?
porch itself would be the main concern for this type of order. And I mean, if you want to reframe your mind around that, Dusty, is it's not necessarily condemning the building, where the board is potentially choosing to secure a building until it is rectified and deemed safe.
Well, if I can continue, we found that fining this woman doesn't do an ounce of good because it's been going on for 5 years. So the only way you're going to get her attention, I'm afraid, is if you condemn that house. And that's not in our jurisdiction as a board.
Right. If what Katie does, a declaration of unfit for human habitation prevents her from renting it to anybody else.
Correct. And that is within the board's right to do so within the state housing code and also Mass General laws.
Right. And so then, so Dusty, the leverage would be that she would not be able to, you know, profit off of this home that has all of these problems, and until everything is addressed that was outlined on March 15th, and then it continues to be ignored today.
All right, so how are we going to word this amendment, this agenda item to make a motion?
Margaret, did you have a comment first?
I was just going to say that there seems to be some confusion. I think it's being taken care of, though, between condemning the house and being unfit for human habitation. That's two different things. We have the authority to declare it unfit for human
Correct.
habitation.
Yes.
We're not, that doesn't mean we're condemning it.
Correct.
And so that's what we're talking about right now. Shall we move with that? And the question was to Julie, if we do that, that means she's got to move. And if she's, does she want to do that? She's going to have to leave. So that's what my understanding of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, and we fully appreciate the difficulty in finding a place to live these days. Yeah, but our,
I can't
our
just pack
job-
up and leave.
Right.
I
Our
can't.
job at the Board of Health is to protect your health and safety and that of your family. And you do have an underage child there.
I
So,
do.
We're sort of.
But and I appreciate what you guys are trying to do and to protect my family. So I'm either going to live in a house that's going to kill me and my children, or you're going to make me homeless. This is what you're making me choose.
It within the limitations of
I
the
understand.
the laws that we have to abide by and the limited power that we have to make this happen.
I understand. Do you understand how evil this is of this woman that has put myself as a mother, that she has put me in this corner, that I will either be homeless or I'm living in a house that's killing my family?
Totally. I get it. We do understand that and understand it's not easy for you, but we'll do whatever we can, as a town and to help you provide you with the resources that you need to relocate, even if temporarily. Okay. All right.
Is she even attending this? Does she
I don't-
even care enough to attend this? Of course not. Why would she bother? I apologize.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay, so are we ready for a motion? Anybody?
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
I honestly don't know how to word the motion. This is what I'm confused at. As to what our power is, we only can go as far as our power. And so I don't know how to phrase this. And if you could help us out, Katie, how we can, I put it on you, didn't I? I'm sorry. How we can phrase this, not affect the woman, get her thrown out or make her leave right now. How are we going to do this?
So, I mean, the whole vacating the premises. So the moment that placard goes on that door, people have to get out.
Correct.
That's something that you could word into it if you wanted that placard to go up on a certain day. It would have to be pretty quick, essentially, because this is the essence of this vote is that the house is unsafe and that's why she needs to vacate. So it's tricky there. The motion would be around the board's feelings on this home being unfit for human habitation, essentially.
So I have a question. So
Mhm.
can we make a motion based on the board providing what I will call a reasonable time, a week, to have the issue that is the most pressing to be solved by then? And if not, then we'll have to declare the house unfit to be habitated.
Absolutely. The board could vote on a time frame tonight that, a permit is pulled for this deck to be replaced by the end of day tomorrow, and then a time frame for that to be completed. Again, it would have to be a quick
That's
fix.
why I want.
And if we don't see
No.
that steps being taken, then the board could, so if we don't see a permit pulled tomorrow, then the board could meet again and deem it unfit for human habitation after that.
I understand that we've provided the landlord with time to make these accommodations, but this will be, so to speak, an ultimatum. If you don't do this by the time of the end of this time frame, the house will be declared unfit for habitation. And
That's an option, Miguel, right? So, but they, we've done that, right? Back in March 15th, we were given a list of things, but we could give them this sort of an ultimatum too.
And the unfit for human habitation, especially in this sense, is the last resort. If you know that there's no other remedies that are going to actually take effect and make a difference here.
I just don't feel comfortable with what the owner had mentioned about not doing anything until September. That's really not a realistic option. This is not new to her. She's known about this for a long time.
Mhm.
Right.
She's also made some horrible comments about not doing any work until she throws me into the street. So she's not intending on doing any of this work.
She hasn't shown any willingness to this point, that's for sure. So
She's not responded to Dion's phone calls, emails, nothing.
right.
She's been non-respondent to anything.
Well, but we can go on hearsay. I have to have, something in written that we provided the ultimatum, and it cannot be months. It'll have to be days to things to get done. We can't prolong this until the fall when it gets cold and so on.
So, those of you that have looked at the house, you've agreed that it is unfit. We could definitely call it unfit for human habitation. Correct?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. But I like Miguel's idea of trying one more time, even though we've tried, because if we vote tonight that it is unfit, then Julie has to find another place to live.
Right.
So I like that idea of moving, that we give it a very brief time frame to have Paula come into compliance, and just to give one more chance.
Okay, that sounds fair too. So whatever, if you would like to make a motion to that effect, somebody, whether you give their 24 hours or 48 hours to pull a permit for the deck to be repaired, however you choose to word it, then the board can vote on that. And if we choose not to accept the motion, then we can entertain another one. A different motion. So, but the thing, I can't make a motion as the
Okay,
chair.
Miguel, you want to make that motion?
Yes, I'll make the motion. I
Okay.
make a motion for on 141 Williams Avenue, owner Paula Hoffman, non-compliance with orders to correct dated March 15, 2024 for violations of the state sanitary code 150 CMR 410.000 to have her come into contract with a person to solve the deck disrepair within 24 hours, and the job should be completed as soon as possible, because this is really a health issue. And if this does not happen, the house should be declared unfit for habitation.
Shall we put a time limit on completion? I think you should put a hard deadline on as part of the motion as to when the deck work needs to be, the deck replacement shall be done.
All right. Any suggestions here? I didn't see any code saying that it has to be completed with a certain time, but I don't want this extended.
But ASAP is a kind of open-ended, so there needs to be some deadline, right?
I will add that there is conservation concerns with the deck so that it may require an NOI or some other conservation process as well. So at least one meeting period for them would probably be ideal.
Yeah. So you're seeing 30 days for, that brings us to September.
Right.
Yes.
So.
But that's to be replaced in full, is that correct?
Yes. Well, that
So
would be,
30
yes, if that's what the motion calls for, and that's really what it should, to be replaced, not repaired or, anything short of a full replacement.
Because if I understand correctly, one of the contractors has already been to the town trying to get all of this into play. Is that not correct, Katie?
There are no permits pulled.
No, I understand there's no permits, but the contractor, Donald, has been down to the
He's-
town trying.
He spoke with conservation and building back in April. We have not seen him since.
Okay, all right.
It would, maybe Dion could speak to the difficulty that Katie alluded to. It would require some heavy machinery to come out back, but conservation won't allow that. So it's kind of a non sequitur here, where we probably can't have the deck replaced in the way that the traditional way. That it has to be, because the slope in the backyard is so steep in this such
Okay.
small area where any machinery could actually fit, and I don't think conservation is willing to allow that. So it might
Yeah,
be.
that's correct. That was my understanding, is that heavy equipment was not to be allowed on that slope, so near to so close to the pond. So the contractor did state there's another way it could be built. But I haven't spoken to him since about that project.
All right. I just don't want this to be an exercise in futility,
Right.
where we're just extending, Julie's family's misery and, just prolonging the inevitable on this. So,
Is there another problem that would be easier to address, or like the water leakage, the roof? Could we maybe perhaps direct our if there's one area that has to be fixed, instead of trying to do all these different things, maybe not the deck. Is there something else that we could look at?
The thing about the deck is the only thing that we have a footing on, because it provides the second egress from the
Right.
house.
Right.
So yeah,
It's-
that's the safety feature that is
Right.
determining it, that it could potentially be unfit for human habitation. The water leakage, the original problems had been resolved. The remaining problems are potential because it
Okay.
wasn't done correctly.
Okay.
right. So. So I guess what, we have to figure out if we're gonna give her a day to pull a permit, or two or whatever, and it's probably very unlikely to happen. And then, decide on what the next step would be, whether it's.
Can I
Yeah.
amend the motion to include the starting time versus completion time, or no?
I would be much more comfortable with the completion time, just because, it's just too open-ended and leaves too much possibility for, the job to never be finished, just to procrastinate as long as possible. And then
Can
we'd
it
be
be
back.
amended that we put a pulling the permit within 24, 48 hours, and then start work within 2 weeks and complete it 30 days after it started?
That sounds fair to me. I don't know what everybody else thinks. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'll make the motion and then you guys can vote.
Okay.
Okay. So I make a motion on 141 Williams Avenue, Mrs. Paula Hoffman, non-compliance with orders to correct dated March 15, 2024 for violations of the state sanitary code 150 CMR 410.000, to have her pull permits to start replacement of the deck within 48 hours. Work has to be started within 2 weeks from the permit pull and completed within 30 days of starting the job.
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a second. Any further comment?
What about all the other problems that are not completed and the roof that is still a major problem?
Right now, we're just discussing among the board, Julie. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay. Dusty, any further comment? No. Okay. Katie, anything else? Dion? Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and vote on that. Dusty?
Yes,
Okay. Margaret?
Yes.
Miguel?
Yes.
Yeah. Bob? Yes. So Katie will notify Mrs. Hoffman tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
And then we'll see if she pulls the permit or not. And if not, then we'll have a meeting shortly thereafter and do what we have to do. We'll discuss it further.
So I'm in
Um,
limbo till
wait,
then.
Miguel?
Yes, I have a question. So I
Yes.
see Mrs. Hoffman is in attendance here. Does that count as being notified?
She's here.
She's here, but I will write a written statement with summary of what happened.
Right. Okay. Vote is closed. Discussion is closed. So we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Again, Margaret?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Yes.
Bye.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.